Hi, and welcome to another demo. Uh, in this demo, the purpose of it is to show how we can use file systems by mounting it into the Linux file system tree. So this assumes that we have already done the partitioning part and we have already created a file system on the partition, and now we're ready to mount the file system to make it part of the operating system so that the operating system can use it and we can use it as well. All right. Uh, this can be done with mount command, but let's just see what sort of an options that the mount command can give us. The mount command has a lot of options. We can check that with the mount minus H option, and we see that hey, there are lots of options that the mount command takes. Um, we are not concerned with all of those. What we are mostly concerned with is, trying to specify the type of file system and the source, which usually is the file system that we want to mount, and the target, which is the directory where we want to mount it. Bear in mind that the target directory must exist in advance in order for us to be able to mount the file system on it. All right. So let's create some you know directories as targets for the different file system that we already created in the previous demo. We created an extension 2 file system. We also created an extension 3 and an extension 4 file systems. All right. Now this command creates, and the minus p option make dir basically make a directory mkdir. The minus p option means create the directories if they don't exist from before. So this directory, for example, dov doesn't exist from before, neither does extension 2. So it will create both of them at the same time. All right. So now let's check that those directories are created. All right. We can use the list command, ls with the minus l, which means list, and see, yes, those directories are created. All right. So far, so good. Now, before we mount anything and we start doing, mounting the file systems or anything at all, let's check um, what are mounted already onto our system. The partition that are already the disk or partition that are already mounted to our Linux system. This can be done with the mount command, and this in this case we're just piping it to grep. We just want to filter out and say we want anything that starts with an that contains the SD pattern. We see that there is SDA2 and SDA1. Those are the only two that actually are mounted on the system. For example, that are file systems. You know, SDA2 is an extension for. It's mounted on the root file system. This is the root file system that uses by all the operating system, and this is the boot partition, which is also mounted on the SDA part. Okay, now. This is just a repetition of what I said, but this is great so far. So now let's mount the file system on our newly created directories. Okay, we start with the first one, we start with the second one, we do the third one as well. Now we're saying mount. We're given the minus T option, specifying what type of a file system it is. It's an extension 2. This is the source. This is the partition, right? That contains our file systems, and we want to mount it on the newly created directory for that purpose. All right. Same thing with the other two. Now we can check what uh, partitions or file systems that are mounted to our Linux system. You see that now when we use the mount command and filter it out, now we see yes, SDB SDB1 is mounted on this directory, SDB2 is mounted on this directory, and SDB3 is mounted on this directory, and it tells us what type of file systems they are, and it tells us that they're mounted with read write. We haven't specified any options when it comes to we can mount file system read only if we want to. We can mount file system. We read, write, and execute, executable bit as. But the normal thing, the default parameter, if you do not specify it, is read, write. So anything that's created under or the file system is mounted as read, write, and if we have file system in there, we will be able to read and write to them. All right. So far, so good. Now that we have file systems, they when ready to use them, we can use them as we want. All right. But then the next step is what happens is the commands that we issued earlier, they are just mounting it when the system is on. If we want to mount the file systems so that it's permanent, so that we want it to be available when the machine when the our Linux machine reboots, then we have to edit and make an entry into the etcfs tab. This will not be covered in this demo, but the point is that we put an entry into the etcfs tab so that it will be automatically mounted when the system reboots. As it is now in this demo, if we reboot the system, then all the mounts that we done will disappear. The file system will be there. Then in order for us to use the file system, we have to mount them manually again, and that's a tedious process. We can avoid that by making an entry into the etcfs tab file so that this is done for us automatically when the system boots. All right, this concludes this demo. Bye bye.